All right, hello and welcome to Camel Finance. I'm your boy Camel, and I got a bit of a cold, so you have to excuse me for that. But having said that, I noticed today Agenda 2030 is trending on Twitter, and I think largely because of this clip right here. So we'll kick things off by playing you that.
Secretary General and Klaus Schwab, the founder of the World Economic Forum, will witness the signing of a memorandum of understanding on a strategic partnership between the UN and the World Economic Forum, which outlines areas of cooperation to deepen engagement between the two institutions and to jointly accelerate the implementation of the 2030 agenda.
So they're going to be apparently accelerating this thing towards Agenda 2030. If you don't know what that is, I urge you to go and do some research, but a couple of quick snapshots here for you. Celebrities are promoting eating bugs and worms and eating less meat.
I believe so much in the mission of Beyond Meat that I've stepped in to help with my greatest asset, my taste. This plant-based meat is not only a
Plant-based meat, I've heard enough. Here is a Forbes article from 2016. Welcome to 2030. I own nothing, I have no privacy, and life has never been better. So you can see the detachment from the real world that these people have. And of course, this is probably their most famous. You'll own nothing and be happy with this guy. So don't be this guy. And then lastly, whilst we're on this subject, AIB, which is Allied Irish Bank, they're going to have a bunch of branches, physical branches that you can go into, but they'll be cashless. So a walk-in bank that doesn't deal in cash. I don't know. But yeah, I expect this to be a trend. We've been trending towards a cashless society, I guess, ever since the C19 era. And I expect this to continue. So anyway, that is Agenda 2030 today. This comes at a time when there's still a lot of civil unrest throughout the world. They've got protesters in Panama, as you can see here. They are blocking the highway currently because inflation and corruption is just so high. So again, sort of a recurring theme, isn't it? That we see this more and more. Inflation is continuing to get out of hand all over the world. And people are starting to really feel the effects of it, which is leading to protests and that sort of thing. Back in the crypto sphere, Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index is at 31 at a price of 23,334. So we have left extreme fear and are now just in fear. I think a lot of people don't trust the pump. A lot of people aren't buying it. A lot of people think that this is going to crash down anytime soon, or very soon, I should say. And maybe that is the case, but that remains to be seen. Samsung has produced a new Bitcoin mining chip that it claims will be 45% more power efficient and 23% more powerful. So that will make mining a whole heap more competitive. The French banking giant BNP is going to offer Bitcoin and crypto custody services. So that's not for me, giving my Bitcoin and crypto to a bank and letting them take control of it and hold it for me. But let's, stay detached to reality here. And in the real world, there are many people that they just can't be bothered. They don't want to have to hold their own keys, and they don't want to have to, take ownership of their own crypto. And let's be honest as well, if you're an older person perhaps, or if you're, I should say, less technologically savvy, then the barrier to entry for crypto is still quite high. You have to do quite a bit of research. You can't just sort of buy this and buy a wallet and then be done with it in 5 minutes. Although it does get easier every year, I will say that. But there will be an awful lot of people that are more than happy to buy some crypto, have some exposure, but don't want to have any of the ownership problems that come with that, or ownership responsibilities, and therefore would be more than happy to allow their bank to custody their crypto. And I suspect this is something that we're going to see continue to trend as well, is that more and more banks will allow people to have crypto and they'll be glad to hold it for you. Of course, the downside to this is if you don't hold your own keys, then it's not really your crypto, it's not your Bitcoin. And of course, the same with holding cash in a bank is yours until it isn't, right? For a lot of people, the risk will be nominal. But just remember that the Celsius lawyers recently have claimed that the users gave up their legal rights to their crypto when they moved the crypto onto their platform. So, not your keys, not your coins. Dubai has presented a plan to create 40,000 metaverse jobs over the next 5 years. So they're taking this very seriously. Metaverse is not something wholly I'm excited about, to be honest. It just doesn't appeal to me that much. But for those of you that are able to understand it or have the time to understand it. I'm sure this presents an enormous opportunity for those sorts of things. The $1 billion Southland Credit Union is now allowing members to buy Bitcoin. So again, this is more adoption, this is more money sat on the side waiting to flow into Bitcoin. And again, I expect this to be a trend that continues over this decade. Facebook's former head of Messenger, the Messenger app, has said that Bitcoin is the most secure and trusted form of decentralized store of value and settlement that we have. And that's absolutely true. It is. I really like this because it says the bear market is over, and it's got some caveats to this, which we'll get to in just a second. In modern markets, the S&P 500 has never lost ground over the following year when the advancing volume was 87% or more of the total volume for 2 out of the 3 days coming off the 52-week low. It has a perfect track record. So whenever we've had a 52-week low, which is denoted as these red ones, all of these red dots, 1 year out from here, when 2 out of the 3 days coming off of that low had 87% or more of the total volume in it, that has always yielded higher stock market returns in the S&P 500 12 months out. We have one of these prints now, so that doesn't mean, we'll get to the caveats now. Of course, this doesn't preclude short-term losses, so that's what I was just about to say. That doesn't mean we can't go slightly lower in the short term, but what it does mean is if we are not higher than where we are today in 12 months' time, this will be the first time in history, first time out of any of these red dots, that is the case. He says, of course, he can't predict the future. Of course, this time is different. Of course, it would be great to have a larger sample size. Beware of anything that seems perfect. But I thought this is quite a nice bit of perspective because I doubt many people think that we're going to be higher in the S&P 500 over the coming year. Somewhat contrary to this is the yield curves are sounding the alarm that the Fed is going to break inflation, but also it's going to come at the price of breaking the economy. So we have got a mixed bag of signals. Disinflationary forces in the housing market has been evident, and the number of homes being listed for reduced prices is on a steep rise. People aren't selling their houses at the current price, and I think it's safe to say at the moment that we have at least a short to medium term top in house prices. So of course a Fed pivot will fix that, much the same as we have a short term top in the stock market until a Fed pivot. But it has been interesting to see that homeowners are having to increasingly decrease the asking price of their house in order to try to make sales because people just aren't willing to pay the amount of money. Not to mention that inflation has caused house price increases, and the increase in rates has obviously made borrowing for a mortgage significantly less affordable. Nigeria. Cryptocurrencies have changed the functioning of the banking and financial sectors, says the central bank governor. Nigerians love Bitcoin. Crypto.com has received regulatory approval in Italy, and this comes just after Coinbase has as well. So I wonder if that means a lot of Italian money is about to flow into crypto. The Bitcoin network is on track to process 18 trillion in value this year, according to a Grayscale report. That's a lot of money. That is a lot of money for a juvenile network like Bitcoin. Three Arrows Capital owes 27 different crypto companies about $3.5 billion, according to court documents. So you can see why this contagion spread like it did, and you can see why the amount of downside for crypto was so large, and likely there is still some more to come. I like this summary from Will Clemente. It says, in my opinion, the most compelling chart in crypto. And he's got a nice explanation of this chart. If you're wondering why this chart looks familiar, this is where you may have seen it before on this channel. So this is my sort of what I've been calling my experimental search for alpha, to try to find if we can actually call tops and bottoms, or you get some sort of significant advantage over the markets from this chart. But the explanation here is a very nice one as to why it actually works. When large amounts of stable coins are on the sidelines relative to the market cap, the market participants have to chase the rally higher, i.e. as the price moves up, they have to deploy their stable coins. And when there's a lot of stables deployed, but no one left to buy, well, the market runs out of new buyers. And so that's what we're seeing here. When we're at these levels, there's a lot of stable coins being held in people's accounts, waiting to buy the dip, waiting to be deployed. And then as we approach the other end, you get, like I said, the opposite effect. everyone has spent all their stable coins, everyone's out of money, and therefore that seems to be why this chart is as powerful as it is. When we're up here, it tends to call bottoms, and when we're down here, it tends to call tops. So I'm looking forward to keeping my eye on this and seeing what we can achieve using it. Bitcoin has made its first attempt at the realized price and the 200 weekly MA, and as of the time of recording, we're currently above both. So that is very, very encouraging to see. If we are going to continue to respect these two lines in the sand, so to speak, then we need to see both of these defended over the coming week or two. And so with all that said, let's get into some charts. Kick things off with the S&P. The S&P yesterday closed, as you can see, bullish above this trend line. So is there a long here? Well, yes, there is. However, in the interest of full disclosure, I could just say, so I'm long the S&P, blah, 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 but I'm not. And I'll show you why, okay? If you've been watching the channel, then you'll know I am currently long the UKX. I'm also currently long JD Sports, okay? And so I wanted to show you, I mean, I could easily just say, oh, yeah, I'm long the S&P, but I haven't. So in the interest of full disclosure, why haven't I? Well, it's because instead I am long the NASDAQ on this breakout yesterday, okay? This is me in here looking for, I doubt it'll go that high, but we'll see. So the question is, why didn't I take the S&P? Well, there's nothing wrong with this setup, okay? There's nothing wrong with this at all. However, I just preferred the NASDAQ. And the reason I preferred the NASDAQ is if you look at these trend lines, where have you seen this before, okay? Downtrend, breakout retest resumption into horizontal resistance and then emerging from that base. And if you click the JD Sports, it's the exact same setup, isn't it? Breakout retest resumption into resistance and then emerging from that base. So that's the first reason I like this setup. The second reason is the S&P simply has a diagonal. These highs, as you can see, higher, lower, and now we're breaking above, haven't even truly cleared this high. So I preferred the setup on the NASDAQ. Horizontals typically perform better than diagonals. So that's the second reason. And then you might be wondering, well, why didn't you just long both? Well, the reason for that is I don't want to be long the S&P, NASDAQ, UKX, and JD Sports, because personally for me that's too much equity exposure. I have to keep my risk to certain sectors or certain asset classes within my tolerance for my trading accounts. So if I just, you know, if I just long this and then long the Dow and then long every other index and then the indexes all roll over, then I will be taking way more loss than is acceptable. So one of these stops is fine, but like I said, because I got JD Sports, because I got UKX, and now the NASDAQ, I have not taken the S&P long. But that does not mean that trade isn't valid. It just means instead of opting for the S&P, I've personally opted for the NASDAQ. So we'll see how that goes. But I hope that's clear. If it's not, let me know in the comments. Here's oil. Oil is still not really that interesting for me. It does appear like we got a swing pattern in play. Does that mean more downside? I think quite possibly. It becomes interesting for me on a trend line break, but for now I'm just not super interested in it, to be fair. Gold, is this bear flagging or is this rounding? Again, this becomes the trigger for longs for me, or a trend line break, so just a little bit more patience, but it appears to have stopped. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see this sort of spring below this level. It just kind of looks like that's what it wants, but I'm not going to try and guess or pretend to know. I'm just going to keep my eye on it and play it like how I always play the rest of my trades. Bitcoin is doing well. We've got a trend line break, haven't we? So this is great to see. Not much to say really. Long and strong. Probably going to run into some resistance at 25.2-ish, and that's where that low was formed. And then if we can get above there, I don't see why we can't get back to 30-ish, pretty sharpish after that. So anything can happen, right? A lot of people still don't believe this pump, which tells me there's possibly fuel left to drive it higher, but that remains to be seen. ETH above 1500, 1550 as of the time of recording, working on a retest. Can we get a resumption? And then that means potentially we should be coming up at least to 2000-ish and possibly as high as 25. So we'll see how that goes. Matic is bull flagging, I hope, rather than about to give all these gains back up, but nothing I can do really. I just want to continue to push this trade. I don't want to duck out here only to then find that it's one of these enormous moves. So I don't want to miss one of these. So I'm just going to continue to keep pushing this and hope it doesn't just, you know, crash back down here. So long and strong again. Hopefully this turns out to be a bull flag. If you haven't got a position, an entry, something like this could be a potential one for you to line up, as long as you're an experienced trader and already know how to trade, of course. The Dixie right into the parabola. We've also got sort of trend line in a more traditional sense, haven't we? We've got this situation in here. So do we come down and touch that? I don't know. We'll see for now, but keep an eye on this. A breakdown here would be so good, but as I keep saying over and over and over again, I do think it's too early. That could well be the top. Maybe we come up and make a lower high. Maybe we come up and make an equal high. Could be the top. But I do think that we've got a couple more weeks before the Fed can actually signal what it's going to do. And whatever the Fed signals, I guess, is what's going to catalyze the move. So, again, keep an eye on that. And the 10-year yields look to have broken out, coming in for that retest. Can they hold and resume, telling us that inflation could be a problem? Or could this be about to get slapped back down and make a new low? In which case, we should be scared about growth, I guess. So we'll keep our eye on that. I'll continue to report. I think that's everything. Yeah, it is, isn't it? So if you found value here today, I'd appreciate it if you could drop a like on the video, subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, and take care out there. All the best. Cheers.